Arizona Territory, 1878. The unforgiving summer sun beat down on Gabriel Daniels' withered cornfield as he wiped sweat from his brow, his stomach growling, a painful reminder of his third day without a proper meal. What remained of his cattle, a mere 7 head, grazed listlessly on the sparse, yellowed grass. The drought had claimed most of his herd, along with his hopes for a prosperous season. Another year like this might be the end of me, Gabriel muttered to himself, his voice raspy from thirst. At 32, Gabriel was a man who carried the weight of failure in his calloused hands and tired eyes. 5 years earlier, he had ventured west with dreams as vast as the Arizona sky, purchasing this modest parcel 50 miles from the nearest town. Now, each sunset brought another day of wondering if he should admit defeat and return east. The distant thunder of approaching hooves pulled Gabriel from his grim thoughts. He squinted against the harsh light to see 2 figures on horseback, their silhouettes growing larger against the horizon. Something was wrong. One rider slumped forward, barely staying mounted. Gabriel grabbed his rifle, more instinct than intention, and approached cautiously. As they drew closer, he realized the riders were women, extraordinarily tall women, wearing traditional Apache clothing. The lead rider supported her companion, who appeared gravely injured. "Help!" The first woman called out in accented English. "My sister, she is wounded." Gabriel hesitated only a moment before setting aside his rifle. "Bring her inside," he said, gesturing toward his modest cabin. The women were indeed remarkable in stature, both standing well over 6 feet tall with powerful builds that spoke of lives spent in physical labor. The injured sister had a deep gash across her side that had soaked her clothing with blood. "Name's Gabriel Daniels," he said, holding the door. "And you are?" "I am Naeentsa," said the first woman. "This is my sister, Dasadzahi. We thank you for your help." Gabriel cleared his rough-hewn table. "Lay her here. I've got some medical supplies." While not a doctor, Gabriel had learned to treat injuries during his time in the West. He cleaned and stitched the wound while Naeentsa explained they had been attacked by bandits while hunting. The men had taken their game and shot Dasadzahi when the sisters fought back. "You both fought bandits?" Gabriel asked, impressed despite his concentration on the delicate stitching. "We are the warrior daughters of Chief Naeentsa," Naeentsa said proudly. "It is our way." Through the night, Gabriel tended to Dasadzahi's fever, applying cool compresses and administering willow bark tea. Naeentsa never left her sister's side, her dark eyes watchful and guarded. By morning, the fever had broken, and Dasadzahi's breathing had steadied. "You saved my sister's life," Naeentsa said softly as Gabriel changed the dressing. "The people will remember this kindness." Gabriel shrugged uncomfortably. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," she said firmly. "Not any white man. Most would have left us to die." The truth of her words hung in the air between them. Relations between settlers and the Apache had been strained for decades, with atrocities committed on both sides. Gabriel had never participated in the conflicts, but he knew his presence on this land was itself part of a larger displacement. "I'm just a rancher trying to survive," he said finally. "Same as anyone." Naeentsa's expression softened slightly. "A poor rancher, it seems." Gabriel laughed despite himself. "That obvious, is it? Your cattle are thin. Your fields struggle. Yet you share what little you have." Dasadzahi awoke later that day, confused but alert. Gabriel offered the sisters his bed for another night, insisting he was comfortable enough on his bedroll by the fireplace. He prepared a simple meal of beans and cornbread, meager fare, but the best he could provide. As they ate, Gabriel found himself drawn to Naeentsa's quiet strength and observant nature. She asked thoughtful questions about his ranch, offering suggestions based on Apache knowledge of the land that he had never considered. "The water runs beneath this valley," she explained, sketching a map in the dirt floor. "Your well is dug in the wrong place. That is why it runs dry in summer. You can tell that just by looking at the land?" Gabriel asked, incredulous. "My people have lived here for many generations," she replied. "We know where the earth keeps its secrets." The following morning, Dasadzahi was strong enough to sit up and take broth. Gabriel was checking her bandages when a cloud of dust on the horizon announced riders approaching, at least a dozen. "My father comes," Naeentsa said, stepping outside to watch their approach. "Chief Naeentsa." Gabriel's stomach tightened with apprehension. While he had treated the sisters with respect, he knew how protective Apache leaders were of their people, particularly women of their family. The riders thundered to a stop before his cabin, led by a stern-faced man whose elaborate headdress and bearing immediately identified him as the chief. The warriors behind him sat tall on their horses, faces impassive but eyes alert for any threat. Chief Naeentsa dismounted and approached Gabriel with measured steps. Standing eye to eye with the rancher, he studied Gabriel's face before speaking. "You are the one who saved my daughters?" "I only did what needed doing, sir," Gabriel replied, meeting the chief's gaze steadily. The chief nodded once, then entered the cabin where Dasadzahi rested. After examining his daughter's wound and speaking with her in their native tongue, he emerged with an expression Gabriel couldn't read. "I have made my decision," the chief announced, his voice carrying across the yard where his warriors and both men stood. "Gabriel Daniels, for saving the lives of my daughters, I offer you a choice." Gabriel waited, heart pounding. "You may choose one of my daughters as your wife, to bring prosperity to your struggling land. Or you may accept the gift of 10 horses and the protection of my people for as long as you live on this territory." Gabriel blinked in shock. Marriage? To one of the chief's daughters? He glanced at Naeentsa, whose expression remained carefully neutral, though he thought he detected a flicker of something in her eyes. "Chief Naeentsa," Gabriel began carefully, "I'm honored by your offer, truly. But where I come from, marriage is a choice made by two people who care for one another. I couldn't accept such an arrangement without knowing if either of your daughters would welcome it." A murmur ran through the warriors, and the chief's eyebrows rose slightly. "You would refuse the daughter of a chief?" "I would refuse to make such a decision for another person," Gabriel clarified. "Marriage should be built on mutual respect and feeling, not obligation or payment." After a long moment, Chief Naeentsa's stern expression gave way to a smile. "You speak with honor, Gabriel Daniels. Few white men would decline such an offer, or consider my daughter's wishes in the matter." He turned to Naeentsa. "Daughter, what say you to this man's words?" Naeentsa stepped forward, her tall figure commanding attention. "I say he is unusual among his kind. He has wisdom and respect for our ways, though he does not know them fully." She looked directly at Gabriel. "I would like to know him better before such decisions are made." The chief nodded thoughtfully. "Then it shall be so. Gabriel Daniels, you will be given time to know my daughter, and she you. For 3 moons, she will visit your land and teach you the ways of surviving on it properly. After that time, if there is harmony between you, we will speak again of marriage." Gabriel's eyes widened. "And if there isn't harmony? Then you remain a friend to the Apache, and we will still help you with your land, though not as family." The arrangement was unconventional by any standard, but Gabriel found himself nodding in agreement. "That seems fair, Chief Naeentsa." Later that day, after the Apache party had departed with Dasadzahi safely on a travois, Naeentsa remained behind. She stood on Gabriel's porch, watching the dust settle on the horizon. "You could have simply accepted the horses," she said. Gabriel leaned against the doorframe. "Would have been simpler, I reckon. Yet you chose the harder path." "I didn't choose anything yet," Gabriel corrected her gently. "I just made sure we both have a choice." Naeentsa studied him, her dark eyes thoughtful. 3 moons is not long to decide on a lifetime. "No," Gabriel agreed. "But it's a start." The first weeks of their arrangement were awkward but productive. Naeentsa showed Gabriel how to find the hidden water sources on his property, helping him relocate his well to a spot that provided consistent, clean water even in the driest weather. She taught him which native plants could supplement his crops and shared Apache methods for predicting weather changes. Gabriel, for his part, worked tirelessly to implement her suggestions, grateful for knowledge that might save his struggling ranch. He taught her to read English from his small collection of books in the evenings, and they exchanged stories of their childhoods and cultures. "Why did you never marry?" she asked him one evening as they sat by the fire, the autumn chill having settled over the land. Gabriel stared into the flames. "Came close once, back in Pennsylvania. Elizabeth Owens was her name. Her father owned the general store. But when I told her I wanted to head west, she chose to stay behind." He shrugged. "Out here, there aren't many opportunities to meet women, let alone court them properly." "And you? Why have you remained unmarried?" he asked in return. Surely there were warriors seeking the hand of the chief's daughter. Naeentsa smiled faintly. There were. But Apache women have more say in such matters than your women do. I found none of them interesting enough to accept. And what would make a man interesting to you? Gabriel asked, genuinely curious. She considered the question carefully. A man who sees me as more than just the daughter of a chief, who values my thoughts and strength, who does not fear that I stand taller than him. Their eyes met across the fire, and something shifted between them, an acknowledgement of mutual respect that had been growing steadily since her arrival. As weeks passed, Gabriel found himself watching for Naeentsa's return whenever she visited her people. Her absences, though brief, left the cabin feeling emptier than it had when he'd lived there alone. Her presence brought not just knowledge but a warmth he hadn't realized he'd been missing. One crisp October morning, Gabriel woke to find Naeentsa already outside, dressed for hunting. "Come," she said when he emerged from the cabin. "I will show you how to track deer the Apache way." They spent the day in the foothills, moving silently through the brush as Naeentsa pointed out nearly invisible signs of wildlife. Gabriel was a decent hunter, but her skills far surpassed his own. By midday, they had brought down a young buck, its meat enough to last Gabriel well into winter. As they worked together to dress the deer, Gabriel found himself admiring the efficient movement of Naeentsa's hands, the careful precision with which she treated the animal, wasting nothing. "Your people respect the land in ways mine never learned to," he admitted as they packed the meat. "Yet you are learning," she replied. "That is rare among settlers." The sun was setting as they returned to the cabin, casting long shadows across the improved ranch. With Naeentsa's guidance, Gabriel had expanded his garden to include native plants, restructured his irrigation system, and begun breeding his cattle with hardier local stock. For the first time since arriving in Arizona, he felt hopeful about his future here. As they stored the meat in the smokehouse Gabriel had built following Naeentsa's instructions, their hands brushed. Instead of pulling away, Gabriel gently took her hand in his. Their eyes met, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. "Naeentsa," he said softly, "these past weeks have been the best of my life out here. Not just because the ranch is doing better, but because of you." She didn't pull her hand away. "And if I were not the chief's daughter? If I were just an Apache woman with knowledge of the land? It would make no difference to me," Gabriel answered truthfully. "It's you I've come to care for, your strength, your wisdom, your kindness, the way you see the world." Naeentsa stepped closer, her height allowing her to look directly into his eyes. "Among my people, it is sometimes the woman who does the asking." She touched his face gently. "Gabriel Daniels, would you welcome my heart if I offered it to you?" Gabriel's breath caught in his throat. "I would consider it the greatest honor of my life." Their first kiss was tentative, a bridge being built between two worlds. When they parted, both were smiling, the warmth between them having nothing to do with the setting sun. The following weeks saw their relationship deepen as they worked side by side. Gabriel learned about Apache traditions, while Naeentsa expressed curiosity about his Eastern upbringing. They navigated cultural differences with patience and humor, finding common ground in their shared values of hard work and respect for the land. As the third moon of their arrangement neared completion, Gabriel began preparing for Chief Naeentsa's return. He'd used his improved well to maintain a small garden even as winter approached, and the chief's gift of knowledge through his daughter had transformed the once-failing ranch into a promising homestead. "Your father returns tomorrow," Gabriel said as they sat by the fire one evening. "The 3 moons are complete." Naeentsa nodded, her expression serene. "And have you found harmony with me, Gabriel Daniels?" "I've found more than harmony," he replied, taking her hand. "I've found love." She smiled, squeezing his hand. "As have I. Will your father approve of me as a husband?" Gabriel asked, voicing the concern that had lingered despite their growing attachment. "He is a wise leader who values the happiness of his people," Naeentsa replied. "And I am his daughter. He will see what is in my heart." The following day, Chief Naeentsa arrived with a smaller party than before, just 6 warriors and Dasadzayi, now fully recovered and riding proudly on her own horse. Gabriel and Naeentsa welcomed them to the much-improved ranch, where new fencing enclosed healthy cattle and a well-tended garden promised food security even as winter approached. Chief Naeentsa surveyed the improvements with an approving eye before turning to the couple. "I see my daughter's knowledge has served you well, Gabriel Daniels." "It has," Chief Naeentsa, Gabriel replied respectfully. But it is her companionship that has proven most valuable to me. The chief's expression remained impassive. The 3 moons have passed. What decision have you reached? Gabriel glanced at Naeentsa, who nodded encouragingly. Taking a deep breath, he faced her father. Sir, if Naeentsa is willing, I would be honored to take her as my wife. Not as payment for helping her sister, but because I've come to love her with all my heart. Chief Naeentsa turned to his daughter. And you, Naeentsa? What is your wish? I choose this man, father, she said firmly. He respects our ways and values my thoughts. With him, I can build a life that honors both our peoples. For a long moment, the chief said nothing, his gaze moving between the couple and the transformed land around them. Finally, he nodded solemnly. There was a time when I would not have imagined my daughter married to a white settler, he admitted. But you, Gabriel Daniels, have shown uncommon respect for our people and our ways. You did not take advantage of my daughters in their time of need, nor did you accept a bride as payment for a good deed. Instead, you honored Naeentsa's right to choose her own path. The chief dismounted and approached them. If my daughter has chosen you, then I give my blessing. But know this, in accepting her hand, you are accepting more than a wife. You are becoming part of our people, with all the responsibilities that entails. Gabriel nodded solemnly. I understand, Chief Naeentsa, and I accept those responsibilities gladly. Then it is decided, the chief declared. When the winter moon is full, we will hold the ceremony according to our traditions. Dasid Zahi dismounted and embraced her sister. I knew from the moment he helped us that he had a good heart, she said in English, with a knowing smile at Gabriel. The weeks leading up to the ceremony were busy ones. Gabriel worked with members of Naeentsa's tribe to prepare the ranch for the wedding festivities, building additional shelters for guests, and securing enough provisions for the celebration. Meanwhile, Naeentsa divided her time between the ranch and her people's camp, helping with the traditional preparations. As promised, the ceremony took place under the full winter moon. The ranch was transformed by the presence of nearly 100 Apache guests, their campfires dotting the property like earthbound stars. Gabriel, dressed in a combination of his finest clothes and traditional Apache garments given to him by the tribe, waited nervously as the ceremony began. Naeentsa appeared in a dress of deerskin adorned with intricate beadwork, her hair flowing freely down her back. Gabriel's breath caught at the sight of her, tall, proud, and more beautiful than he could have imagined. The ceremony, conducted in both Apache and English, united them not just as husband and wife, but as a bridge between 2 worlds. With this union, Chief Naeentsa proclaimed to the gathered assembly, we forge a new path, not of conflict, but of understanding. Gabriel Daniels is now part of our family, and has landed a place where our peoples can meet in peace. After the ceremony came a feast unlike anything Gabriel had ever experienced, with traditional foods from both cultures shared freely. Music and dancing continued late into the night, with Gabriel doing his best to follow the steps Naeentsa had taught him, much to the amusement and approval of her people. Later, as they stood together looking out at the celebration continuing around their home, Naeentsa leaned her head against Gabriel's shoulder. Are you happy, husband? She asked softly. Gabriel wrapped his arm around her waist, marveling at how perfectly they fit together despite their different backgrounds and her impressive height. Happier than I ever thought possible, he answered truthfully. When I came west, I was looking for land and opportunity. I never imagined I'd find a partner like you. She smiled up at the star-filled sky. The ancestors guided our paths together. Now we walk as one. Over the years that followed, the Daniels Ranch flourished into a place of prosperity and harmony. Gabriel and Naeentsa's unique partnership combined the best of both their cultures, creating innovative approaches to ranching that drew visitors from as far away as California to learn their methods. Their home became an unofficial meeting ground between settlers and Apache, a place where trade and conversation replaced the suspicion that characterized relations elsewhere. Chief Naeentsa often brought tribal leaders to meet with territorial officials at the ranch, with Gabriel and Naeentsa serving as respected mediators. In the spring of their 2nd year of marriage, Naeentsa gave birth to their first child, a daughter with her mother's height and her father's eyes. 2 sons followed in subsequent years, each child raised with knowledge of both their heritages, equally comfortable in Apache traditions and Western ways. By 1890, the ranch had grown to include a school where children from both communities learned together, taught by a teacher who spoke both languages. Dasid Zahi, who never married but became a respected warrior and hunter in her tribe, was a frequent visitor and beloved aunt to the children. One evening, more than a decade after they had first met, Gabriel and Naeentsa sat on their porch watching their children play with their Apache cousins in the yard. Gray had begun to touch Gabriel's temples, while Naeentsa's face had gained the subtle lines of a woman in her prime. "Do you ever regret it?" Gabriel asked suddenly. "Choosing this life with me instead of remaining fully with your people?" Naeentsa considered the question with her customary thoughtfulness. "I did not leave my people," she said finally. "I brought them with me, in my heart and ways. And together, we created something new." She took his hand, her fingers intertwining with his. "I chose well when I chose you, Gabriel Daniels. And I thank God every day that you did," he replied, bringing her hand to his lips. As the sun set over their thriving ranch, casting golden light across land that had once been barren and struggling, Gabriel reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought them here. What had begun with a desperate rescue on a failing ranch had blossomed into a life richer than anything he could have imagined. All because a poor rancher had once opened his door to two giant Apache sisters in need, never suspecting that in saving them, he was finding his own salvation and a love that would bridge two worlds.